Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good. Because that's ultimately what we all really want. We want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Amy will be joining us later in the show as we talk about feeling good in the area of, well, mental health. Remember, health is the first wealth, so stick around and learn something new. But before we get to that, I want to remind you that if you have questions that you would like us to answer on or off the air, you can email them directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. You don't need to suffer. There are answers and solutions. There are ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. And with that, let's answer someone's question. Here's a concern and question that someone recently submitted. It says, Fletcher, I am so glad this year is almost over. It's been absolutely terrible. I'm looking forward to saying goodbye to 2020. I can't stand the fighting, which has come as a result of our ridiculous politicians. I'm sick of COVID and how it's restricting us and dictating what we can and what we can't do. All of my family and friends do is talk about COVID, Trump, Biden, death, and the state of the economy. I feel like it's too much, and I feel so sad at all the fighting that's going on. It's probably a good thing we can't get together more with people because there would just be more fighting. Who can you even believe anymore? Every news outlet is spouting their own spin like it's the truth. Where are you supposed to get any actual true facts? I've never seen our country so divided. I've never seen people so desperate. I feel scared and desperate at times. It feels like too much. I'm happy it's almost over and that 2021 will put an end to all of this. What's your take on this? I'm curious. Beth. All right, wow, that's a lot, right? And it probably reflects a lot of what is on people's minds. So Beth, I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts and reaching out, because reaching out, as we say on the show, is always a sign of strength, which means you're strong. And I get that you're fed up. And I get that you're sick of the fighting, the division, the isolation, the conflicting news in many of our news outlets. And I hear that the current events are affecting even your family dynamics. I absolutely get that it doesn't feel good, and that you're looking forward to ushering in a new year that promises the end to all this and the beginning of more unity, more hope, more progress, less suffering, and more beauty. I hear all of that, and this is what I want to say to you and what I hope that you hear. I want you to find and experience all of that you're looking for, but what I really want for you is for you to be able to find that right now in your life. I want you to be able to generate a sense of feeling good that isn't dependent on what the rest of the world is doing. I really want you to get that. I want you to be able to feel good that's not even dependent on what's going on in the world. I don't want you to have to wait until the future to feel good now. I get that there's all sorts of upsets in the world right now. If you look around the world, it's always been the case. Maybe not a pandemic, but there's been war, there's been political and religious tensions, there's been deception, oppression, crime, poverty. It's always been with us, and there have always been beautiful things happening too at the exact same time. Look, I know you're a strong person, so I'm going to be blunt with you. You're in a state of suffering because of what you are focusing on and who and what you're surrounding yourself with. Now, I'm not in a huge place of suffering, even though I live in the same world as you, in the same country. The difference is that I'm choosing to focus on things that don't result in me feeling desperate and fearful and hopeless. You see, there are so many beautiful people in our world, and they're doing the best they can with the tools they have and the experiences that they've had in their life. 2021 is right around the corner, but it doesn't solve the political strife. It won't solve the pandemic. And you and I, we don't really have much influence in either of those arenas. So given that, let's turn our attention to where we do have influence in our own lives. It's time to focus on what's working well in your life. Here's some questions to consider. Are you healthy? Do you have friends? Do you have family? Do you have a dog or a cat that you can snuggle up with and feel good? Do you have food in the cupboards? Do you have a warm place to sleep at night? Are you employed, or at least do you have marketable skills that could lead to employment? How about this? Did the sun come up today? Do you have oxygen to breathe? And are you above ground? That's a big one, right? Can you get out and can you move your body? Do you have the blessing of mobility? Do you have money in your bank account? So what am I saying? I'm saying count your blessings. I'm saying stop paying attention to all the crap that you can't change and doesn't feel good. That will always be around in some form of another. And many people are addicted to looking for it. And it's time to interrupt that pattern. It's time to begin looking for what is working and what is inspiring, what is hopeful. You see, I see beauty in so many places in my life, but that's because I've become practiced at it. Now, I used to be practiced at seeing everything that was wrong with the world. And I would let everyone around me know it too. I would argue, I would accuse, I would defend, and guess what? It was highly frustrating. It caused division, and it felt terrible. And it didn't make any difference for anyone. So I began to change what I was paying attention to. Now I ask myself, how can I be a source of kindness? How can I make a difference? How can I feel good in my life and help others to feel good? What's going well? Where do I see beauty? Who's doing something that's inspiring? And guess what? That feels really good because I get to meet so many people who are doing cool things in their lives. I meet people who inspire me. I pay attention to people who are also paying attention to how beautiful life is. I get around those people. Now, I know this may be hard to hear, but I'm telling you from experience, this makes the difference. And in the end, all you can do is manage what you focus on. Somebody once asked me, what do you know for sure, Fletcher? And I said, the only thing I know for sure in this life, the only thing is that what I focus on, I feel. I don't know much about anything else. And all the other stuff is just opinions. That's the one thing that I would say, I know this beyond a shadow of a doubt. What you focus on, you feel. And the emotions you experience come 100% from what you focus on. So my advice to you, instead of reading news that doesn't feel good, or instead of spending time on social media that's full of discord and pessimism, start reading things that are hopeful and inspiring. Start a journal. Begin writing your own stories about beautiful things in the world. You know, just yesterday I learned about this cool thing called the Rainbow Mountains in Peru. There are these incredibly multicolored streaked mountains that were just revealed for the first time in 2015 as a result of all this the snow that had melted off. And I thought it was so cool, so I shared it with a bunch of people because it felt good to me and I saw it as beauty and I wanted to share that. And my point is, change your focus. I'm not saying give up. If you see something that needs to change, get involved. Be part of the change, but focus on part of the process that's going to feel good and the part that you can affect. For me, I still call my representatives. I email or call my senators, and I give them my opinions. I still vote. I still give money and time to charities. But I don't focus on the things in the world that leave me feeling hopeless and angry. Now, could I? Absolutely. But it doesn't change anything. Me being angry or upset only adds to my sense of disempowerment. So, Beth, I encourage you to start the practice of feeling good. And it's a practice. It takes time. And all you have to do is just take that baby step. We're only looking for just 1% improvement. But if you stack each day 1% improvement, pretty soon you move the needle in a big way. And you only have one life. You can spend it noticing everything that's going wrong and feels yucky and talk about it with everyone, or you can notice what's going well and focus on what feels good and talk about it with everyone. And the more you share the good stuff, the better you feel, and that's a wonderful way to experience this one beautiful life that we have. I know you can do this, Beth, and I believe in you. Stay with us, we're going to be back. We'll be visiting with Amy, so see you in just a few minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. We're here with Amy.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I see you every day.
I know, and it's always nice.
It's always nice.
Hey, so we're talking about what feels good and the practice of feeling good, and you heard the intro. And so first of all, before we get into it, I want to find out from you, what's working well in your life? What are some wins?
Well, I think we talked about this last time we did this, that I am still doing my strength training.
Yes.
3 days a week. And it's felt really good. And I have really taken the pressure off myself. Like I'm still only doing it for like maybe 15 minutes. But it still feels good, and it feels like it's good enough, and that feels really good.
Yeah, and you're seeing progress too, right?
Yeah, yep. So I've enjoyed that. What are some other wins?
Well, I'll as you think,
Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Is a big win.
We were able to sneak into Hawaii right after they lifted up this stuff. We got COVID tested, and it was really, really, really nice. And we felt like it was really safe. Everyone was masked, and there were barely any people there. So it felt like a really safe thing to do. And we got there before the travel restriction came down, and so I feel really lucky about that.
You know, I felt really good about that entire process. I felt the way that airlines handled everything. They really enforced all the masks,
well, Hawaiian
the
Airlines
sanitation.
Yeah, very.
And we had there were plenty of seats that were empty between people, and they had limited the service on the airline.
Yeah, very much so.
Like food and beverage. So there were not a lot of touch points. It was very good. And then the process for deplaning and getting into Maui, you had to have a QR code that showed you were negative. You had to show that to the
car rental place, the hotel place. Yeah.
And actually, didn't you go? I think even one of the vendors, you went for like a massage or something.
Oh, I got a massage. I had to show that I had a negative COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were really a lot of policies in place to help support, the recovery.
Yeah.
So that was really fun.
Yeah.
On that, I will say a win, because that happened in Maui too. We were out snorkeling.
Oh yeah.
On an extremely calm day, and there were hardly any waves. And we took that opportunity to go to a place we normally don't go snorkeling, because there's usually big waves crashing into these rocks. But we went and we looked down and we saw this cool reef shark. And before that, there were like all these schools of fish, and there just seemed like so many fish. And we saw turtles, but then we saw these fins sticking out of the water.
I thought it was sharks at first.
Right, because we had just seen this reef shark. Then like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of fins.
We're gonna die. There's sharks.
But it turned out to be a pod of dolphins, wild dolphins, and so we got to swim in the ocean with this pod of dolphins, and it was extraordinary. I'll never forget it. They were leaping out of the water, like spinning and just playing. Well, what it seemed to be play, right?
I mean, they weren't really swimming with us, but we swam near them.
Near them, like really near.
Yeah.
And you saw one, a mother and
I saw a little baby nurse for just a few seconds.
Yeah, I mean that's how close we were.
Yeah.
And they just kept coming, and we were like, oh my gosh, is this happening?
Yeah, that was really, I've never heard of anyone having that happen before. So it was one of those trips where you just feel like things happen out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think the things, when you talked about this email, I just want to throw this out there or start our conversation. We wanted to talk about navigating this time, because it is a time where it's really, of all the times that you could get off track with feeling good, or even get off track with your normal routine, this year has been that. And so I thought we could talk a little bit about what we're doing and what I would suggest people would do to kind of stay on track mentally and physically, because I do see a lot of patients that are having more anxiety than they've ever had before, more issues sleeping than they've ever had before, They have, so I mean, people are going on medication for anxiety and depression, and they've never been on medication before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a little thing, you know, like when you say what you focus on, you feel. What if you keep focusing on that, and especially if you don't have any balance with making yourself feel good and being resilient, it really can lead to a disorder.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that one way that I heard, I watched a Tony Robbins fireside chat. You could Google it. I think that he's going to do 3 with his wife. But he talked about looking at this interruption in our lives and the COVID pandemic as going through the stages of grieving. And so if you were to even Google the stages of grieving, I don't remember them all by heart, but you know, there's bargaining, there's anger, there's denial, and you go through all of these stages, which I think a lot of people have been through this COVID time. And then when you get to the last stage of acceptance, he then said he actually thinks there's one more stage after that, which I thought was really powerful. He said after you get to acceptance, then you can get to creation. And I think that is a really powerful thing to consider, is like, so once I've gotten mad at this situation, I've tried to pretend it's not there, I've tried to bargain and make it something it's not, and then I finally accepted it, then what do I want, like, what do I want to do with that?
Yeah.
And like, what is there to create? Like, even my 13-year-old started, like, they're doing a friend gift exchange, or, you know, different charities that have cropped up, or people leaving books for people to read, or sharing, you know, different things that, like, what can you offer the world? And he was even saying, how can you be a blessing? How can you be, like you say, how can you be a source of kindness? So I think if you feel like you're stuck at one of those stages of grieving where you're still having a lot of unpleasant emotion, you might see where you are and how can you move through that? How can you face what's going on, deal with what's going on? We're not trying to pretend it's not happening.
Right.
And then move to a stage of acceptance where then you can get to creation. What is this time allowing me to do? What is this time allowing me to do with my family or myself, or hobbies or exercise, reading, whatever it may be? Try to look at how you can then move to creation.
Yeah, I think that is so incredibly powerful, because we really are always creating, and this is an opportunity to bring a new level of intention to it. And when we can ask those questions out loud, like, and in a conversation, like, hey, what do we want to create in our life that's going to feel good, that's going to feel like progress, that's going to make a difference for us? What would that look like? It's an interesting conversation, and again, we're not practiced at those conversations, and so it might feel a little uncomfortable or awkward.
Yeah, I mean, life, we tend to just be on autopilot.
Yeah.
And our lives are busy, and we get up and we do this stuff, and so COVID has really interrupted that. And obviously there's a lot of sadness and loss, personal, financial, and there's also been a lot of stories of connection and opportunities that weren't there before.
Yeah.
Hey, we should take a quick break.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back and we'll talk more.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for listening today. I feel like this is a really important topic and something that I see a lot in my office, like I've mentioned. And I wanted to elaborate a little bit on what do you do if you're stuck in one of those stages or one of those emotions, or you're stuck in a negative emotion in general? I mean, obviously, if you feel like it's impacting your life in a way that is not, you're not able to do the normal things you need to do, or it's affecting your relationships, or obviously if you're having thoughts of harming yourself, which more and more people are these days, then you really, please reach out to somebody. There are crisis lines, and reach out to your provider, go get help. If you're not, then some of the things that you can do to help you break through anything that you're in are things that kind of get those emotions out of your body. So the things that I tell patients to do are, if you're into journaling, journal. And the thing with journaling, it can be so nice. You can type it, you can write it, but just get all that stuff out. It doesn't matter if it makes any sense. You can get totally mad at someone. You can be mean you can be mean in there. You can be however you want to be. And then you can just delete it or burn it or tear it up or whatever. It's just a way to get those emotions out. Mm-hmm. I think that exercise is also really huge. And exercising outside in nature is so soothing. There are other countries where doctors actually write prescriptions for people to go out into the woods because it does something to us. It reminds us of the bigger picture, the larger forces. It expands our view rather than just the view of our own experience. So I think getting out in nature, taking, deep breaths of fresh air, doing that is another way to express these kind of stuck emotions. And then also talking to somebody, whether it's a friend, and I, again, counsel my patients, and I say, listen, just ask this friend, if you can think of someone that would fit this description, just say to them, can you just listen? I actually don't want any advice. Please don't give me any advice. I just want you to listen. And then you just get to vent, and they don't have to try to fix you. They don't have to try to give you any solutions. But those are some other ways. So writing, talking, exercising are some of the ways to break through those emotions. And the last one, my suggestion would be, is keeping a gratitude journal. That's been studied. There's actually data behind it. It works. If you were to do a list of even 5 things you're grateful for twice a day, even once a day, where you spend a little bit, maybe 30 seconds actually thinking about each item and really feeling gratitude, it actually changes how you feel during the day, and it makes you see more things you're grateful for, is what they found when they've studied that.
Right. Both you and I are involved with journaling about things that feel good or that we're grateful for, and it makes a huge difference in how you feel. And like you said, you then begin to notice other things. Like even when I'm writing it, if I at first only a few things come to mind, as soon as I put it down on paper, it triggers something else. Oh yeah, and there's this. Oh, and there's this and this and this and this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. Yeah, so really cool.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a magnet, right? If you're in a mood where you're frustrated or you're thinking nothing works, it's amazing how all of a sudden you've collected 10 things that don't work when you started off with one. So it's the same kind of thing. And I think that again, this is a time that some people, I know some of my friends are like, oh my gosh, I love this thing. I get to stay home. I love being home. I love not having social events. I'm a total introvert. This has worked out well for me. And they've been able to work from home, so they haven't had financial stress. Great. But a lot of people are not feeling that way. A lot of countries are really struggling. A lot of industries are really struggling. So I think that also reaching out to people by phone, by email, by FaceTime. I know I saw this older couple in the clinic, and they both have health issues, and they haven't seen any of their family through this whole since March. But they didn't know that they could Zoom with them. And the one guy was on Zoom for other meetings, but it's see their faces. There's technologies out there. There's all kinds of them. You can get a free Zoom account, and you don't have to. It's not hard to do. I think it's really important to see your loved ones' faces too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It adds something more than just an email or even than a phone call.
Right. And again, I really love what you said. Just asking for someone to listen.
Yeah.
And then you could extend that same courtesy to someone else. Hey, how are things going for you? Is there anything you want to get off your chest? I'm here to just listen. I'm not gonna advise you. Just an opportunity to vent.
Right. Yeah. And I also I think that sometimes I think we feel bad about feeling hopeful when other people are struggling.
Oh, good point.
But wouldn't it be lovely to be a source of hope? You don't have to get in someone's face if they're not ready to be hopeful.
Be hopeful.
You don't need to change their mind if they're not feeling hopeful. But it wouldn't help to have us all be hopeless. It's still helpful to have some people be hopeful. So I think if you find things that you feel good about, if you find things to be grateful for, and to find things that you're hopeful for, don't cut yourself off by thinking you shouldn't just because some people aren't.
Yeah.
Because we need all of that. And those people will help lift everything up. So.
Yeah, we do. We need all of that. We need you.
Yeah.
And with that, we got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So it's time to get out there, be that source of kindness, be that source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and we care about you, and we believe in you.